the big talk is that we want a pick past our first round before our second round. So I've tried to take a bit of a look at who that could be, like what picks we could get. Is it possible? Those picks that make sense at the moment, there's really two teams I see it being possible with. One is Sydney, who have 14 and 17. Do they want to use both of them? Probably, but there's a chance that they maybe only want one.
Yep.
Then you've got GWS, who have 15, 18, and 19. And they've got that earlier pick as well. So they're the one that, for me, seems super likely in. It would be smart if I was the list manager to trade either 18 or 19 for a future first rounder and load up your picks throughout the future drafts. And whether you throw in some late draft pick swaps, who cares? I think our future first for 18 or 19, because we're going to win the flag.
I was just going to say, makes perfect sense. 18 for 18.
And then I had to do it. I had to talk about players that could be in this range if it happens, because I'd be kicking myself.
Brilliant.
If we didn't go into it, because you hear these murmurs about us wanting to trade back into the first round or sort of into that 15 to 25 range. And you're going, well, who is there that we're that excited about? So I picked a couple of names that I think make sense. So let me find my cursor. Let's go.
And mate, you didn't hijack anything, because this was my next segment that I had planned. So, and this name is also about as exciting as this segment. So if this is who I think it is, unless there's, many Hottons running around.
Well, he is the son of former Carlton footballer. You may remember this man. I believe it was Trent Hotton that played a couple of games for Carlton back in the early 2000s, which was the peak period for us growing up. This man was one of the high hopes that we had that maybe didn't take it, but I think his son can. It is OLLI Hotton. He's 182 centimeters. He's a mid forward from the Sandringham Dragons, which it's really them and Oakley that are having, I reckon, half this draft, to be honest. And we've talked about mid, half forwards. I feel like that's the word I've said so much. If you're doing a drinking game to it, you're plastered. But he is probably the best high half forward midfielder in this draft. He doesn't necessarily accumulate, but he makes the most out of his touches and impacts games. Always hits the ball with pace, speed away from the contest. Not a huge goal kicker, but when he's in space running forward, he always seems to nail them. He's got that dash across half forward towards goals. And he's just really clean with his disposal. He's shown throughout the year when he's pushed up and been given those midfield minutes that can influence the game and be really exciting. He was a little bit more of just that forward that does a little bit, but when exposed into that midfield later in the year, particularly for Vic Metro, people have been like, oh, who is this guy? And he's sort of risen up the draft boards. I was hoping he was going to be perfect for our second round pick, but he definitely won't be available there. Like Sydney, GWS, probably eyeing him with those picks. And he isn't the best contested player or the best small forward, general forward, but it's his ability to push up and be that influence, impact per disposal player, which suits our needs perfectly, and he's the best one in the draft at that.
Stop it. That, look, I mean, not a classic father-son, but I'm taking it. That's a father-son, and that's always going to get me excited. So that makes me even more ready for a pick swap.
There's blue in his blood, so get him over to the baggers. Another one here. Suits a need. It is Brayden George, 186 centimeters, more of that general forward from the Murray Bush Rangers.
Yep.
He is, I've said bests, he's the best general forward in this draft. If we're looking for that missing link in the forward line, the mid-sized goal kicker, forget Harry Cole. This is definitely the man. It's Brayden George. 185 centimeters. He has that explosive burst to sort of push off his opponents and work himself into space or if the lead. Like, he's so good at that quick, short bursts. And all the while, he's got the clean hands and ability to mark over the head. He partnered with that strong leap. He's got athleticism everywhere. He's oozing it. And he's reliable in front of goal as well. He ended up with 19 goals in 8 games. He had 2 3-goal games, 1 5-goal game, and a 6-goal game. Like, he has that ability to just explode and be that match winner. Real sharpshooter who would fit into our forward line well. Downside. This guy would probably be a top 10 pick if he played all his games this season. but he's been a bit unlucky. We speak about injuries, but I feel like this is more luck than anything else, or bad luck. Injured both knees at different stages this year. Tore his meniscus early-ish into the season, missed 10 weeks, had some surgery, comes back, plays 2 games. I think one of those was the 5 or 6 goal game, and then does his other knee, does his ACL. Just so unlucky. And that's pushed him further back because we haven't seen him probably enough, but what we've seen has been unbelievable at times, and would have loved to have been able to see a bit more of him in the midfield, see if he can be that guy who, because he uses it so well and he's got that little quick burst, whether he can translate that into midfield. Just didn't see it because of the injuries. So he's someone that will float a little bit further back, because I feel like teams maybe don't always look for that just marking middle-sized forward, but match winner all about him. He could have that potential to do some crazy things because he can kick those 6 goals a game.
Great. Gosh, you've worked on these pitches well, mate. There hasn't been a guy that you've talked about that hasn't got me excited. So Brayden, I'll take him as well.
That's the aim. And it's a lot easier with these guys that might go a bit higher. Honestly, that first 2 rounds is where I'm excited by a lot. But we know not all of them come on, and there's going to be reasons for that. But if you're looking for the positives, that's what I'm here to try to bring in. There's 2 more players I'll mention, and I'll go through them nice and quickly. The next one is one of my favorites. Maybe doesn't suit a need, but I just need to talk about him. It is LACHLAN Cowan. So you'll love getting a LACHLAN across. I know we've already got a couple in the team. 187 centimeters, a defender, but he can also play a bit of midfield, a bit of wing, to be honest, which is where maybe I'm shoehorning him in from the Tassie Devils, which you absolutely love to see.
Oh, we do love that.
I love him.
I need to love.
Last year, the player I probably fell in love with in the draft was Darcy Wilmot as a bit of a rebounding defender. I feel like everyone's now fallen in love with him at Brisbane. This year, LACHLAN Cowan. So my track record on that so far, small sample size, pretty good, I will say. Now, while we don't, as I mentioned, maybe don't need that rebounding halfback, I just love this guy's skill set. And you could push him maybe more into a wing role, or potentially he could do a bit of both, play a bit of halfback, allow Doc to float into that midfield if needed. This guy, consistency is everything. Every single game I saw him play impressed me. I never saw him really do anything wrong. It was just constantly providing good stuff. He's super accurate, and he's got that long boot. Him and Jason Gilby, I mentioned, for the Allies, were kind of tandem running off that halfback and wing at times. But this guy was definitely that step above, particularly with that ball use. And he just loves to have the ball in hand, take the game on. He's quite attacking, but if you need him to defend, he's shown he can do that as well and be accountable, run back in that 2-way running. But also that other reason I love him is apparently just leadership. He's been captain of multiple teams.
Oh, yeah.
And it's those little things you hear. It's, again, not something I know heaps about. I'm not in the inside walls, but you talk about those little things that we're looking for, and it's the leadership. It's that wanting to drive for success. Totally. He ticks all those boxes. Like, he could be a future captain of a team because of everything that's spoken about his leadership. And I think that with his running, with his foot skills, even though he's probably more suited to a halfback, why not just bring in talent and go for it and see if you can play on that wing? Go for him.
Far out, mate. Far out. That has sold me as well. So I think you said that you've got another name or two. So that's going to be one more. I feel bad for this bloke because that was a pretty damn good sell. So good luck.
Yeah, it's hard when I fall in love with a guy like that, and then you come up. But nothing against him. It is Ed Allan, 194 centimeters. He's a tall utility. It's an interesting, very interesting player from Claremont. Draft range, honestly, this guy, this is dumb. 8 to 30. Could go as high as West Coast's pick 8. Could go later. Who actually knows? He's really interesting prospect. He's the bolter of the draft, if you want to use that term. 194 centimeters. He can play a lot of positions, and he's shown quite a lot, weirdly, on a wing, which he uses his pace, honestly, quite a lot to win a lot of the uncontested ball. And he's really good disposing. And you'll love this little fun fact. he can kick on either side of his foot. He is a
What?
dual-footed player. He's almost as good
Never heard
on
of
his
it.
oppo as he is on his main, which is just it's great to see. And he won the 20-meter sprint at the combine as well, which is quite impressive for a guy with his height, which is, again, he's got those athletic traits that these AFL clubs love, which is, again, why he fluctuates. And with his height, could he be swung back and be this intercepting or just rebounding defender? Potentially. Could he just find himself being a winger, big-bodied midfielder? Who knows? Like, this guy could be anything, and we probably haven't seen enough of him in one spot because he struggled a little bit with opportunities early, wasn't really getting selected, and then burst on late, and everyone went, holy shit, you idiots, why weren't we seeing this guy all year? And yeah, I think West Coast are very heavy into him. They've got a couple of picks, 8, and I think one in the 20s, so it could go anywhere there, but one of those exciting talents that if you want to trade up and just get prospect that could be any position, anything, he's an exciting one. But yeah, he's just so unknown quantity, but there's upside for sure.